The Netflix original show The Witcher has officially made binge-worthy status. While the show was a total success, it can be, at times, slightly hard to follow. Because it has multiple timelines unfolding simultaneously, it is easy to get twisted in the many interlocking plots. Today we'll be untangling the convoluted story in an attempt to bring some much-needed clarity to the fans. When you first watch the show, it seems as though things are playing out in chronological order. But as the story progresses, you begin to catch on that things aren't quite what they seem. Apparently, the season was written to deliberately confuse viewers and drop mini twists when you least expect them. In actuality, Season 1 takes place over about 40 years and follows 3 distinct timelines that center around the season's 3 main characters: Ciri, Yennefer, and Geralt. Let's start with Ciri's timeline. One good way of keeping track of things is to remember that when Ciri is on screen, you're looking at the present time. Her linear story takes place over the span of around 2 weeks, and is chock full of death, suffering, and turmoil. We see an invasion by the Nilfgaard, which effectively disrupts the political climate of the continent, and follow Ciri's escape to find Geralt. Along the way, she meets Dara and spends time in the refugee camp. A few days after that, she enters the forest and encounters the Queen of the Dryads, who offer her shelter and protection. She is then tricked by a Doppler in disguise, escapes, and finally finds a nice woman with a house in the woods. All of this takes place in between Geralt's second visit to Cintra in episode 7 and his arrival at the former refugee camp in episode 8. In the final moments of the season, she finally meets him and their stories converge. In Yennefer's story, we go back nearly 30 years to before the fall of Cintra, meaning she is far, far older than her youthful skin suggests. In her origin story, we discover her troubled upbringing and learn of her father's resentment. When Yennefer is bought by Tisea, she is around 20 years old or younger. Following that, we see her as a mage studying magic, but are unsure of how long she is actually at the academy, because she mentions that she has spent 3 decades serving kings. We can deduce that her story took place around 20 or 30 years prior to Geralt's storyline. Still with us? Let's take a look at Geralt's tale. After many long hours of playing detective, we have discovered that Geralt's entire story is about 20 years long. We believe that there is a 12-year gap between Geralt's 2 visits to Cintra, an 8-year period between episode 1 and episode 4. Fans have done the math and discovered that Geralt's battle with the Straga takes place around 30 years after Yennefer's makeover. How did they figure this out? By tracking the character Foltest. After his ascension ceremony, Foltest is 10 years old, but when Geralt meets him, he's in his 40s. On top of that, in episode 1, Ciri mentions that her grandmother won her first battle when she was Ciri's age. But later in the same episode, Renfri says that the battle was recent in Geralt's earlier timeline. This means that his timeline started when the queen was around the same age as Ciri is at the banquet. In addition, we have discovered that the earliest scenes in The Witcher don't actually happen until the season's final episode. While Yennefer is busy unleashing chaos and burning down Sodden, Geralt spends his time in much more, fighting off infection. It is at this time that he sees visions from his childhood and we meet his birth mother. We learned that she gave him away in order for him to start his Witcher training. Showrunner Lauren Schmidt-Heisrich revealed to fans that Geralt is already 100 years old in the first episode. This means that baby Geralt's scenes must have happened at the very beginning of the Witcher timeline, before Yennefer was even born. Heisrich admitted that she wanted to trick the audience into thinking that everything was happening simultaneously, until we see the young version of the Queen midway through the season. In an interview, she stated, "What was important to me is starting off and making sure that we understood who Geralt was and who Ciri was, and then in episode 2, who Yennefer was." She explained how one of the earlier decisions they made was to introduce Geralt and Ciri in episode 1 and to hold on to Yennefer for episode 2. For that exact reason. She wanted to keep the monsters and magic, but also leave room for actual character development. Heisrich stated, "We need to let the characters live and breathe in this world a little bit. That was one of the reasons we structured the story that way." Does it all make sense now? We hope so. Showrunners from season 2 have promised that the show will be more linear, but if they don't keep this promise, we'll meet you back here in a year or so to break it all down again. Was there any point in the season where you got lost in the storylines? Were you on your phone and did you totally miss something? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll try to figure it out together. Be sure to subscribe so we can help you with all your future Witcher timeline unscrambling needs. Until next time.